friends, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about motion sick at Disney World. If you guys get motion sick like I do, you will know that it can completely ruin your day. And I'm always a little bit leery of different amusement parks when I have no idea what kind of rides will be there and whether or not they will make me sick. So if you're not familiar, motion sickness is when basically your brain can't kind of make sense of what's happening. So like in an airplane, you'll feel like you're moving, but your surroundings on the inside of the plane are completely still. And your inner ear plays a role in this as well, with the fluid in it and maintaining your balance. So your brain can't make sense of these things, and then you end up sick. So it can give you a headache and nauseous, and you can start hurling and a number of things. So obviously you want to try and avoid that if at all possible. So I wanted to give you my experiences in Disney World. Now, I kind of broke these things up into different categories. For me personally, I really only have a problem with simulators, and that's very, very common, again, because your brain can't make sense of what's happening. So if you're in an attraction where you're watching a movie, like a 3D movie, and the chair is moving, you're seeing things, and what your seat is doing and what you're feeling, they don't exactly line up, because you can still see completely stationary things in the room. So there are a couple things at Disney that I don't do at all. There are things I have no problem with, I can go upside down, no problem, on Rock and Roller Coaster. And then there are a couple things that I will do but medicate for, with something like Bonine, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and Dramamine. So let's get started. Okay, so first, getting down to really the point, is what are some tips to deal with this. Your motion sickness will typically go away when it stops, when whatever is causing the issue stops, or you get used to it. Now, for me, I've noticed that the nausea can last for hours. So you obviously don't want to pay that much money to go to Disney World and then kind of have the rest of your day be ruined. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're on this ride and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting really, really sick, how can you deal with it? Close your eyes, focus on your breath, and slowly count backwards from 100. If you can, try to focus on a still object, because a big part of the problem is focusing, and your brain, when you can't focus on things, your brain kind of goes haywire. So if there's a stable object in the room, focus on that. Avoid alcohol and smoking. So I thought this one was kind of interesting in this context. I don't know if they were talking about maybe on a cruise ship or something, if people are drinking, it might make it worse, but for the sake of theme parks, you're probably not drinking and smoking while you're on a ride, but maybe if you're on a boat or something, I'm not sure. And like I said, medication. So there are some medications that you take about an hour beforehand, but then you have to retake them. They'll usually last for 4 to 6 hours. There are a couple that I've seen that last 24 hours, but they can typically make you drowsy. So keep that in mind. It's kind of is it worth it to you or not? I know they do make less drowsy Dramamine. In my opinion, it doesn't seem to work as well, but it is an option and I have used it. So what are some of the issues at Disney World? So like I said, for me personally, simulators is a really big problem. If you were in Epcot back in the days of Body Wars and went on it, you know what I mean. It was awful. It was a really cool ride. You watched on a screen as you went through the human body, and you're in their bloodstream, and you're moving, and you're in this moving chair. It was so awful for motion sickness though, and I know a lot of people talked about it. So for me, simulators are the worst, and I will start with the ones I don't even ride, even medicated. So I couldn't think of any in the Magic Kingdom that I have issues with, but moving over to Epcot, first and foremost is Mission Space. There are two options. There's the regular and then Mission Space Lite. So there is spinning involved, and then there is a bit of a simulator as well. I have never been on this. I went with my family one time. There was 6 of us there. My mom and I did not ride. And then when everybody came off, they were all pale, and they're you would have died. So I don't even try Mission Space. Another coworker went on one time, went on this ride, and she was totally serious. And she says, I had to count backwards to survive. I'm like, okay. We just laughed about this forever, for months. You had to count backwards to survive. I don't know what she started at. Did she say 10, 100? I have no idea. But if you get motion sick, stay away from Mission Space and just hang out and wait for them. Whoever is riding, just wait for them to get off the ride. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. That's another one that is coming to Epcot, scheduled to open October 1st in the France expansion. My husband and I rode this ride when we were in Disneyland Paris. It's a cute ride, but you're wearing the 3D glasses and you're not in a seat that's moving. You're in like a car that's like shaped like a rat. Which means it's a little bit better because it's a little bit more accurate since you're actually moving the whole vehicle and not just your seat. But it's another one. I had to close my eyes for that one. I would be willing to try it again, pre-medicated, with something like Dramamine, but I don't know how much I'll be able to handle it moving forward. Soarin' is another one that is technically a simulator. I really don't have issues with this one though, and I think it's because you have air in your face, like blowing in your face when you're moving, and it matches up really well, and the movements are a lot slower and smoother. So if you're super, super sensitive, you might have an issue with it. But I think it would be worth it to at least take some Dramamine and try it out because it's a super cool ride. And if I found on that ride specifically, if I have any issues, if I feel like I'm getting kind of dizzy, I can just close my eyes and then I'm fine. I've never had issues last longer than like 10 minutes after I've gotten off of that ride. Lastly, I wanted to mention The Seas with Nemo and Friends. It is where you're riding in a clamshell. This is another one where it's just really a small part that I think is an issue. And I ride it no problem. I just close my eyes when you're like going through a tunnel and the water is moving and it doesn't quite line up correctly. It's not worth it, I don't think, to skip it altogether. Just close your eyes, but know that it is in there. There is a bit of a simulator effect in there. Moving on to Animal Kingdom is Flight of Passage, Avatar Flight of Passage. This is a ride that like everybody loves. Or so it seems like. The line for that ride when it opened was over 4 hours long. And this is like a massive simulator. So you have a whole big screen in front of you and you are sitting on, it kind of is like a motorcycle seat, but it's like a Banshee, like you're riding on the back of a Banshee. And again, it's smoother. It's not herky-jerky, kind of like Body Wars was. For the most part, it's smoother and it does line up with the picture better than old-fashioned simulator rides. I do have an issue with this ride though. I keep my eyes closed almost the entire time. I do pre-medicate, and honestly, we don't even do it every time because it's not worth it to me to feel sick the entire rest of the day. But every couple of trips, because my husband loves it so much, I will take some Dramamine and try to do it toward the end of the day so that if I do get really sick, I didn't ruin the whole day. The worst, like the worst of the worst, is in Hollywood Studios, and that is Star Tours. And just like Body Wars, when it existed in Epcot, you're like in space, your seat's moving, it's a whole thing. I will not even ride this ride, even medicated, because it is by far the worst. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, that one does have a little bit of a simulator effect, or a lot of a simulator effect, because you're flying through space. Everybody has a different job. This is the one, if you guys watched my review, where all adults in the same spaceship were like yelling at me because I took like a quarter of a second to press my button, and it's like, chill out, this is like really just like a game, you need to calm down. These were like Star Wars, total hardcore Star Wars nuts. So they take it, I was probably actually not motion sick, it was probably like I was just so stressed out by everybody shouting at me that I'm like gonna make us crash because I didn't press my button when it flashed or something. But anyway, if you are major motion sick and you're not a huge Star Wars fan, just skip it. It's cool. It was cool to see it once, but if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's not worth getting sick over. And then lastly, I did want to mention Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway for simulators. I don't know if that's accurate, but you are moving, like your entire vehicle's moving, and you are watching things on a screen. But since your entire vehicle's moving and it's not just your chair, it's not as bad. Again, I think this would really only be an issue for people that have serious motion sickness issues with simulators. I can do this one no problem without Dramamine or anything like that. But I did just want to mention it so you can be prepared. Moving along to if you have issues with things spinning, like when you can't focus on an object. Mad Tea Party. In the Magic Kingdom, the Mad Tea Party, that's the worst. You can control how fast you're spinning with the little disc in the middle, so you could just spin slower, but this is something that seems, and I don't think I'm making this up. I think this is something that is more difficult to tolerate as you get older. Like, I definitely have a much harder time with this now than I did before, and I don't know why, but I do. So yeah, that one we do rarely. Probably would be good to medicate before that. Some people may have an issue with Space Mountain only because you can't see. It's very dark. You can't see where you're going. This is another one. I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with roller coasters. It's not a simulator. It's just that you can't focus on where you're going. You have no idea where you're going to be. It's a little easier if you're in the front because you can kind of see the track and it's not always pitch dark. But if it's pitch dark, it is like black. Can't see a thing. But then it's more fun. Okay, something I wanted to mention along the same lines of you can't really focus is they have two 360-degree movies in Epcot. And someone explained to me why this is a good idea. It makes no sense to me. You have to stand the entire time. There are like railings in between, and then you just go there and stand. Of course, if you're in a wheelchair, you can sit, and they do have some benches in the back for people who have issues standing or mobility issues, but you're just supposed to stand. They tell you that you can't sit on the railings, but you're completely surrounded all 360 degrees by this movie, and you're standing, and then sometimes the movie moves a little bit. So I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but they have one in China, and it is called Reflections of China, and then they have one in Canada, exactly across the lagoon, and that is called Canada Far and Wide in Circle Vision 360. So again, I mean, you could just look down if it's causing you a problem. You don't have to stare at it or anything. The floor is totally stationary. It's just that you're standing there and things in the screen are moving, so it can be difficult for your brain to comprehend what's happening. Hollywood Studios, similar to the Mad Tea Party, is Alien Swirling Saucers. You're not really it's spinning. It's spinning. It can be difficult to focus. This is another one that becomes significantly less fun as you get older, and it's like an exponential thing, I think. So if you have serious issues with that, I would skip it. Ride Slinky Dog Dash instead. And let's see, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. That one, I don't have an issue with that. Your whole car moves, but it's dark. So again, if you have issues where like I have to see everything or I get sick, that could be an issue in that regard. Lastly is Animal Kingdom. And in Animal Kingdom, the only issue I've ever had is on Dinosaur, and I personally have had very, very mild issues with it. I can ride it no problem. I don't need to pre-medicate. I shouldn't say that. I should say, in addition to Flight of Passage, is because you're in a large vehicle that's moving very violently, like very herky-jerky, and it's very dark, so it can be difficult to see where you're going, and your eyes don't, like, your vehicle doesn't exactly match up with what you're seeing. So again, you could possibly have issues with those. But these are some of the rides that I've experienced issues with, and like I said, I know simulators are notoriously terrible for people who get motion sick. And if you're like me, it's best, some of them like Star Tours, I just avoid them altogether. If it is something like Flight of Passage, I may suck it up and take some Dramamine and do it at the end of the day just in case you do get sick, and then your whole day isn't ruined. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope it can help some of you who do get motion sick and still want your family to ride these rides. I should mention, you do also have the option. If the line is like 30 minutes long or something, and you don't want to just hang out there at the entrance and you want to be with your family and see the lines, because the lines in Disney are pretty cool. You can wait in line with them, and then when it gets to the time of boarding, just tell the cast member, I don't want to ride. I just want, I want to walk through, and they'll tell you where to go, and you can exit on the other side and wait with them. So then you're only apart from your family or traveling group for the length of the ride, but you waited with them in line that entire time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye guys.